Hello. Now then, put your hand up in the air if when I said that I was going to be doing stenciling, who was scared? Who went, me? Who went, I don't own any stencils, me? Don't you worry, Auntie Carol's got your back. I haven't, but I've got a few ideas. So, as I've said yesterday, and I also found as well I was doing too much of that, which makes you a bit like, woo. So I'm going to try and sit like this. So what I said to you yesterday was that I was going to do a bit of stenciling with you. I am no expert. I might not get all the technical stuff right, but I want to just give you a few ideas. Now, the inks that I'm using are Tim Holtz Distress inks. Right, get the other one out that I'm showing you. So here I've got walnut stain and peeled paint. Peeled paint is great, I find, personally, for when you're doing foliage and stuff, because it's got a little bit of brightness about it. If you use something like a permanent ink, like the Stays On ink, it can soak through your paper. So you do need to test it out first, because you create this beautiful image in your journal, turn over the page, you've got some more on the back. Don't want that. Now, there are the mini little pads of the distress inks as well, which always come in quite handy, and especially if you haven't got a lot of money to buy 4 little ink pads, will do you. I've got just a couple of these, and I bought a bag of, peel it off without getting ink on my fingers. I bought a pack of these, and I allocated one of these to each of the ink pads that I own. So then I've got ink on my finger now. Oh, I've got green on my nail. Looks like I've been picking my nose. Oh, nice. So yeah, so you can buy the little ones, which if you're a bit tight on money, I would definitely say it's worth getting them. Some people use Distress Oxide, not got any, so don't know. If you haven't got any stencils, you can make your own, or you can use stuff that you've already got. So one is Punchinella, which is that sequin waste. So you could use that as a stencil. Run your ink over there, you'll end up with a load of dots. Nice little background. Doilies. Most journal makers have got doilies. So you can use doilies. I'm going to demonstrate these to you in a bit. Fancy doily. If you're into making greetings cards, there are, sorry, white against white, you can't see that, can you? Some greetings cards that you buy have a nice fancy edge. Hobbycraft sell a selection of those, so they're all punched out, so you could use that. You could use your punches, and don't forget to use punches as well on the edge of your paper if you haven't got any lace. So here I just punched out one of the border edges that I've got, so you could use that. If you've got a die cutting machine and you've got some dies, you could use them. And I've done one, here's one I prepared earlier, and in fact I've done some inking off it already. Excuse me. So it's just a scrap piece of card, punch the die cut the image out of it, and that now acts as a stencil. Admittedly, these things are not as durable as buying proper plastic stencils, so after a little while you will find that the ink will start to penetrate the paper, the card, or whatever it is that you're using, and it will start to rip and tear. So be prepared for the fact that it won't last. Alright, so I'm just going to show you what you can do with some of these. Okay, so this one I've used before in another one of my journals, and I positioned it so that what I did was, and we do circular movements, and do it lightly to start with, and you can stick this down with masking tape if it helps, to not manoeuvre it about, but at some point you've got to remove it. Now, as you can see, the problem with doing the circular movements around the doily, and if I just pull it back slightly, you can see it's created a pretty pattern, but it's left all this smudgy bit off the edge of the doily. So what you can do is run this off. So you're applying a little bit of pressure, but not too much, because you don't want to rip your doily either. And it gives you a little bit of a starburst effect. So if I remove that away, so can you see how it's just giving it this nice starburst effect up here. Let's do the punched edged one. So as I say, you'll need to look at where you're thinking of doing stenciling as to whether you need to hold it down into position. And again, because this has got the edge on it, we can do the running off of the sponge and the ink off the edge. Give us that nice effect again. Sorry about the extra noise. I've got my window open. We've had a lot of sun here in the UK of late, and it's just starting to become a little bit overcast. So it's gone a little bit humid, and as though there's a little bit of a storm coming. So again, you can see it just creates that nice little image. So if you imagine that, let me just do it with one page for now, so then you might be able to see. So if you imagine that that was your journal page, I just need another piece, come on. And if you're going to run it off the edge of the page, have another piece of paper underneath. And I'm just going to line it up so that it's on the edge. Okay, so there's the edge of the page right there. I know you can't see much at the moment because it's white on white. And obviously I would need to punch a longer piece of card to be able for it to continue down the page. And if I run it off, gives it a pretty edge on the edge of the page. Okay, so there's lots of different sort of little options there. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you was in the centre of the signature, I'm doing an envelope that I haven't glued together yet, because I will open it up and I will stitch down this point here, and then I will make the envelope up, so then the envelope is then attached. But otherwise I've just got a vast expanse of coffee dyed paper, and I just think that that would be a little bit boring. So I'm just going to take that out. Just chucked all my pages in the bin. I don't know where you go now. I'll have to figure that out later. So, if I look at this, I feel as though I want to frame something around there. And of course it'll flip because it's going to be stitched, so it'll be able to swing. And so then I felt that I needed something round here as well, so that as you flip it, da, 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 da. Enough of the theatricals, Carol. Right, I'm going to put my scrappy bit of paper underneath again. I'm going to do one half at a time. So I've got my leaf stencil. Can you see that? And I can't tell you where I got it from before anyone asks me, because I've thrown the packaging away. Have a drink of water. Sorry, not water. Cup of cold tea. Now I don't want the whole thing covering. All I want is a bit of a leaf impression just around the outer edge. Alright. Now as I say, you can put masking tape down to hold it. I'm very blasé. I'm just going to put my hand in the middle there because I know that I don't want any stenciling within that area there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to very lightly run my thingy doodad. I can't remember what it's called at the minute, even though I used the name in a video the other day. What's it called? My little dabber. Distress ink blending tool. There we go. Okay, so I've just gone lightly round. What I can do to make that stronger is to go over it again and apply a little bit more pressure. But what I want to do is go further in, but do it really lightly this time, so that the ink is only just, and I'm going round in a circular movement, only just showing through. Right, and if I'm very careful, you can't see that properly maybe on screen, but what I'm then going to do is I'm just going to go over this edge again. To make it a lot darker around this outer edge. Oh yes, I did. I finished telling you. So yes, so it's a bit humid, so I've got the window open. And if I've told you that already, can I just say, I'm probably losing my marbles. And I've forgotten that I told you that. So there we go. So I'm a lot darker on the edges now. I'm just going to go over again lightly on the inner edge because I just want it a little bit further in. And now I've got an image just around, turn it sideways on, then you might be able to see now. So I've just got that image just around that outer edge. Now that was the way that I had it on. I would then actually flip that stencil over and do the other side. The thing is that this is covered in ink and you can't really see it. You can see it a little bit, but you can't see it a lot. So I would actually use a baby wipe all the excess off, wait for it to dry, flip it over, and then do exactly the same on the other side. So I formed almost like a ring around the outer edge of the page. And so it means then, and you're going to have to use your imagination a bit, that when that is on there, look, can you just see how it's now framed? And then of course when you flip it over, it reveals this space here for you to write in. Alright, so I'm going to leave that one there for now. You'll have to wait until the finished thing to see it. Now the other thing that I wanted to do with this page, let me take them elements out, is on the previous page I actually want to do a smaller piece of paper. Let me just trim this off and then I'll show you what I mean. Oop. Got that many bits going on over yonder. Okay, so that's the page that we've just done the stenciling on for the centre signature. That's the previous page, and I want to insert, remember how I said about inserting smaller pages and things? So I want to insert in there a smaller page to flip open, and then you turn that page and you come to the centre. Right, but I want to blend those two papers together. That's my napkin for the next video. Oh. Right, so I'm going to leave that on top of there, and I'm going to use this stencil here. And again, I've done this on another one of my journals. So what I've got here is I've got this flower, and I'm going to position the flower so that it's half on the half page and half on the full page. Does that make sense? Oh, I hope so. How many minutes we have? 15. Okay. You can also, just to test to see how much ink you've got on your dabber, just do a little bit of that on a scrappy bit of paper so that you're not starting off with a massive amount. Okay, we're in the centre, aren't we, Carol? Yeah. And I'm going to start in the centre of the design, and again in a circular motion, and I'm only pressing lightly because I'm just going to go out in a circular motion. And this is another one where you could put masking tape down to help to keep it in place. Now I don't know whether you just saw, but what I did was in that centre I went over it a few times so that it's darker, because the more pressure you apply, or the more times you ink over that spot, the darker it will get. I'm just doing some satellite circles, not applying too much pressure, so that it fades out in colour. So again, it's darker on the centre bit and lighter on the outer bit, and then more pressure on the middle. Okay, so when I take it off, see how I've got that there, and then when I open it up, can you see it's only half printed on that page? Okay, if I take the half page out, that looks quite nice just on the edge on its own. When you line it up, and this is where you need to make sure that these two pages in particular, when you stitch it into your journal, you need to make sure that they're lined up. So there's going to be nothing worse than coming to that. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that away. Which one did I use? That one? No. That way? Yes. And so I'm going to realign the stencil there. Now what I've got to be careful of is that I don't put too much ink on this side, because that will end up getting darker and darker, and this will not match up with that. So I'm going to try to do it just purely on this side. Is this one watching me just doing circles? Okay, and then when I come to the centre, I'm going to try and just do that half the flower there, because I need it to balance up colour wise, because I don't want to line. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in the centre, round and round and round and round and round, so it gets darker. So then when I remove that, you see I've got that image there now. Oops. So it means that when I place that on top of there, it's lined up, but when I flip that back, the image is repeated on the next page. Okay, right, that's that bit done. Next one I wanted to show you was, do you remember on the very first page, show that the right one, yeah, on the very first page of the signature I said we're not doing anything on there. That's because, sorry, just making myself comfortable, that's because I wanted to do this technique. This very first page of your journal could be like an index or contents page. It's also where someone could write about who they are, so they could write their name, how old they are, where they live. Just write a little bit of a bio about themselves. So think contents, index, bio, that sort of page. So how do you decorate that page up? Well, one of the things that you can do is you can get a piece of corrugated card. Not my idea, somebody else's idea. And I used matte Rangers matte gel medium. I think I've got that in the right order. And I coated it with that. It's a glue. And it just makes the ridges a little bit more permanent. Right? If you leave it just as it is, by the time you keep adding loads of ink on it, those ridges will just end up collapsing. So I put the gel medium on. Now I can't find it for the life of me, and I'm going to have to speed up because we're at 20 minutes. But I coated it with 2 coats of that. So did 1 coat, left it to dry, and did another coat. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just running the ink pad itself down the centre, because I cut this piece of card, corrugated card, to the width of my A4 paper. So what I could then do is place that down on there and print it. I find it easier to lay that down on the surface, lay this down then on top, and you have to be careful because you don't want it to move, because then you end up with squidgy lines. And apply some pressure. You can even use your roller if you wish, okay, but I prefer just to use my hands. And if you hold it there for a little bit, the ink will transfer off those lines of corrugated card onto your paper. Right, fingers crossed, because once this comes off you can't do it again. And it's not meant to be perfect either. So there we go, we've got some lines. Yeah, let's use that. And then with the green ink, I'm just going to do diagonal corners. In fact, I want to use that flower there that's in the corner already. And I don't want a really dark imprint. I just want to give a hint of it being there. And again, just do a little bit extra in the centre. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same again by just spinning it round and doing the same in the opposite corner. Now you do need to be careful when you've got a delicate stencil. When you're doing the circular motion, you can flip all these little delicate pieces up, so just do it very lightly. And that is going to be the first page that you come to in the journal. Okay, go on, shoo, go play, go on. No, there's nothing more to see, I'm done. Go on, shoo. See you in a bit. There's another one. Make sure you watch it all. A lot of people skip the second one. You're very naughty. Because the next one's going to be about the napkin decoupage. And you're all like, oh, I've seen videos on that. I'm not going to watch it. Watch it because I've got other things to say. Draw.